who was 14 years old, and sadly, his family would have been celebrating his 15th birthday today had he not been murdered. Obviously, his family is very distraught. We have connected them with our victims' advocates for support. But again, right now we are making a plea to the community. Anyone who is in the area at that time or has any information that can help us to identify and hold accountable the people who murdered JoJo, we encourage them to call Metro Denver Crime Stoppers at 720-913-7867. They could be eligible for a reward of up to $2,000. And if people aren't comfortable submitting a tip, tips can be submitted anonymously.
Any idea why he was in that area?
So it's our understanding that JoJo didn't live in that area, and we haven't determined a specific connection to the rec center at this point. So that is part of what we are looking into and the circumstances we're hoping to better understand.
And how did he die? Is there signs of injuries on his body at this point that you can disclose?
Correct. Yeah. So there were signs of trauma. The medical examiner's office will release the specific exact cause of death. So we're waiting for that determination at this time. But there were signs of trauma. We did begin investigating this as a homicide shortly after the discovery.
Talk about how
Gun
old this
injuries
is.
or anything like that, Doug?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak to the nature of the specific injuries. There were signs of trauma, and we're going to rely on the medical examiner's office to release the specific cause of death.
Talk about how old this is. Broad daylight by a rec center in a neighborhood.
Right. The circumstances are certainly alarming. It's Monday afternoon, right outside of a rec center that was open, and because of those circumstances, we're hoping that there were people who have some information, saw JoJo, saw who he was with, and can help us with those tips to advance this investigation.
Do you have, we talked about this earlier, but do you have cameras in the area, or you're asking people, as of right now, you don't have the surveillance, or you said you're getting closer?
Right. So as part of our initial investigation, we did check in the area for any potential surveillance video that could help us with this, and we are continuing that. Obviously, a lot of folks these days have surveillance cameras outside of their homes. If there's someone in the neighborhood who has a camera that faces the street that may have helped to capture a vehicle or saw JoJo in the area, and if there's any video, if people can check to see if they have recordings of those surveillance cameras. If they have any information they think may help us with this investigation, we encourage them to reach out to our Denver Police homicide investigators.
Did they find anything on him? Anything on him at all?
Yeah. So as far as the any indications of the circumstances, we're still trying to piece together what happened and why at this point.
This is Denver's on track, for what I've been reading, to exceed the number of homicides this year compared to years past. This is a young man. Can you speak to that and to the numbers of juvenile deaths that we've had in the city?
Sure. So sadly, year to date, 60 lives have been taken in Denver. 60 of our neighbors have been murdered in Denver this year, which is obviously an alarming number and unacceptable situation, and we could surpass the record number of homicides for the year by the time we get there, and hopefully we do not. Year to date, of our 60 murder victims, 9 of them have been under the age of 18 years old.
Is that unusual for the city of Denver? Under 18?
I'd have to look at the number of juvenile homicide victims that we had last year, but obviously every single one of these 60 homicides, whether juvenile, adult, are tragic situations. They're a loss to our community, and they have ripple effects. Just with the grief and the just the insecurity that it can cause.
Have you had a chance to speak to the family? Like, is he an outgoing kid? Like, does he like to? It's not his neighborhood. Does he go on public transportation a lot, or does he have friends that he just kind of rides around on a bike, or do you you know?
Yeah, and I don't have that kind of context directly from the family members, but I do know, with having spoken with the investigators, that this is a family that is very distraught with the loss of a boy who today they would have been celebrating his 15th birthday. So, any help that our community can provide to help our investigators to identify and hold accountable those who are responsible for this homicide, and to help provide justice for this grieving family, we encourage them to reach out to Crime Stoppers and provide us with that information.
Do you know what kind of clothing he's wearing? So I'm just maybe if someone looks at they do have a camera and they say, oh yeah, there's a kid with a black shirt, or do you know what he was wearing?
I don't,
Okay.
but I can try to find that information out and follow up with you.
Have you had anyone reach out yet? I was just up there. It's a pretty popular rec center. A lot of people were there when I was there. Has anyone reached out?
So, I can't really get into what we know at this time or what evidence we have discovered at this time, but we are at a point in the investigation where where additional information would be really helpful in us advancing the investigation. So, that's where those tips from the community, where the community can really be an asset in helping us to find those who are responsible for his death.
Can you say if you have any leads at all at this point?
We have obtained some information as part of the investigation, and we're running down any and all leads that we have identified thus far. But we're hoping that folks have more information that help us to take this investigation further.
Can you comment? It looked like the perpetrators tried to cover his body up, or was he pretty much out in the open? I know you said it was kind of in the back of the rec center. Did they try to hide his body?
Yeah, I haven't been given an indication that there was an effort to hide him. I could say it this way. So, a passerby saw JoJo, saw a person down, recognized that they were deceased and that it was suspicious, called police. We believe that this homicide probably occurred somewhere around about 1:15 p.m. on Monday at that location, which is an important distinction. We don't believe that this homicide happened somewhere else and maybe he was taken to this location. We do believe that it occurred there. And so, if there were people on the path that was adjacent to the rec center, again, folks who might have surveillance cameras that face the street, pointed towards the rec center, that any information, even if you think it's small, please reach out to us and share that with us.
Are you allowed to comment if you think the suspects are juveniles as well, or do you know?
At this point, we're still working to determine suspect information. That's still very much under investigation at this point, so I can't say whether or not the suspect or suspects are juveniles or adults themselves.
And I know you said the family is in touch with
Our victims advocates, yeah.
Can you reach out to them, because they were wondering, would the family be willing to speak about JoJo, or can you get word to them and see if they would be willing to speak about their son?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Of course. So,
Thanks, Todd.
of course.
Thank you. Was he about to start school this week?
I would assume so. Yeah, I mean, 14,
Is he
15 years
different
old
from
would
school?
be...
The only other question, sorry,
Yeah.
you talked about it earlier, but you had no affiliation with the young man prior to the call from on Monday, correct? You didn't have but or you can't even go.
Yeah, I
Gmail.
wouldn't be able to speak
Gotcha,
to
gotcha. I forgot.
speak to that. Yeah, I mean,
You went to school?
I don't. No.
Thanks, Doug.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Doug, how long from the